Speaker, this amendment is clearly germane to the bill. It actually applies the same criteria that HF2 does. It just simply applies it to legislators, requiring that we have to go through a process, in a similar process that you apply to teachers, in which instead of chairs becoming chairs based solely on seniority, that they actually go through a selection process through the House, that expertise would be applied to members, and that we would have effectiveness ratings to determine whether or not a member should become a chair of a committee. And that language is taken straight out of House File 2, so I don't know how it couldn't be considered germane to the underlying bill. It's the same subject matter. It just simply asks us to meet the same scrutiny that we're asking educators in our state to meet. You know, I'm only in my third term here, but it didn't take me long to figure out that it takes a lot of seniority to get any power around here and to become the chair of a committee. And I think there's an understanding in both the Republican caucus and the Democratic caucus that that it is seniority that results in a powerful chair. And because of that, the amendment is simply asking that we provide other criteria for determining chairs, such as effectiveness, expertise in a particular subject matter, and that report on whether or not a member is effective is actually reported back to the legislature before we elect chairs of a committee. You know, what we've seen is members of both bodies taking a lot of advantage of the custom we have here, which is that seniority results in a powerful chairmanship. And so because of that, the amendment is asking that legislators meet the same standards that we're asking teachers to meet in HF2, which certainly makes the amendment germane. I also have a handout to members that further explain the amendment and why it is germane to the bill. And it shows what the reliance that our members have on seniority. And, you know, Representative Knobloch, I don't intend to pick on you specifically, but you just happen to present a very recent example of the seniority process that we have here in the House as far as members getting a gavel of very powerful committees. And so you'll see handouts on your desk, members, 3 of them. One an NPR story from 2014, one a St. Cloud Times story from 2014, and the third a fundraising solicitation letter from 2014. The NPR story, September 14th, 2014, we see a great example of the custom that we have here of seniority at the House. That article says, at the Rotary Forum, Knobloch told the audience that his experience matters. We have the least senior delegation for an area in the state, he said. I would bring all of my seniority back if I came. We see in the St. Cloud Times, if voters give Knobloch a second stint in the legislature, he says his seniority will help him help St. Cloud. If the Republicans do take the House majority, which I think is likely,
Mr. Speaker.
I'll certainly be chairing some important
Mr.
committees.
Speaker.
Representative McNamara, for what purpose do you rise?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm a little confused. Can you remind me what subject we're on right now?
We are on a point of order under Rule 3.21 raised by Representative Albright, and we are on advice to the Speaker. Representative Melin.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I was giving the advice that my amendment is absolutely germane because of the examples I have of the reliance on seniority that we have
Mr.
here
Speaker.
in the House.
Representative Albright, for what purpose do you rise?
Mr. Speaker, point of order.
State your point of order.
Mr. Speaker, point of parliamentary inquiry.
State.
I got the floor, Mr. Speaker. Can you do, Mr. Speaker, the point of parliamentary inquiry is, can you do a point of order where there's already a point of order pending? I think the answer is no.
You are correct, Representative Thiessen. So we're on the original point of order, the 3.21. Remember that the issue is the germaneness of the amendment and not the merits of the amendment. The issue is not whether the amendment has merit or not. It's simply on whether it's germane. Representative Melin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I would ask that you do find the amendment germane simply because of the reasons already stated. I mean, it's taking language right out of House File 2 and simply applying it to legislators in front of teachers. I think that if we're asking other Minnesotans to be subject to this kind of scrutiny, it's completely reasonable that we would ask ourselves to be subject to that kind of scrutiny. And all this amendment does is ask to apply that same language to us as we're applying to others. So, Mr. Speaker, my amendment is certainly germane, and I would like you to please not take Representative Albright's advice.
Having reviewed the rule, the bill, and the amendment, and upon advice of numerous members, I find that the point of order is well taken.
Mr. Speaker.
Representative Melin.
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, is it customary of this body that we call points of order on amendments before the author has time to explain the amendment? I understand that that's become customary this afternoon and evening. But if I remember correctly from the previous sessions, we have generally allowed authors of amendments to explain their amendments before other members rise to points of order to question germaneness or whether or not that amendment is in order. And I'm wondering if it's customary of this body to not allow authors to explain their amendments.
Thank you, Representative Melin. I can only act on a point of order when it's raised, and I must do that as the presiding officer, so that's what I've done. Representative Erickson. Representative Melin.
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Is it your intention then to make it a custom this session to cut off authors before we're allowed to explain our amendments and whether or not they are in fact relevant to the bills that are before us?
Again, I appreciate your point of parliamentary inquiry. I can only react to when a member makes a point of order, and as the presiding officer, I must act on that point of order when it's made. When it's made is up to the body and to the members making the point of order.
Mr. Speaker, parliamentary inquiry.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, as the Speaker of this body, don't you have the authority to delay a ruling on a point of order?
I do.
Mr. Speaker,
Representative Melin.
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry.
Under that authority of the ability to delay a ruling on a point of order, then wouldn't you have the authority to allow the author to continue with the presentation of their amendment?
Representative Melin, to your point of parliamentary inquiry, I think what you're saying is probably correct, and I think it is appropriate for members to do that. I'm hoping that just this dialogue will encourage members to allow a member to introduce their amendment and talk about it before we get to the point where we're offering points of order. So I'll leave it at that.